We started last Tuesday on the 8th.
Okay. And in your perspective, how have things been going so far? What are the big updates?
The feedback I got from all the campuses and a lot of the parents and kids was it's been one of the best starts to a school year yet. I mean, we spent so much time up front. We had 19 days of staff development prior to starting because of the pushback that everybody got to practice. We got to go through some trial and error time of what's going to work, what may work, what's not going to work. And from all accounts, everything went really well last week.
Okay. And explain for people what is the model that you guys are using? Virtual, in person, hybrid? What does that look like?
Absolutely. We chose to submit an asynchronous plan that includes some synchronous models. So we are about 75% in person right now. So we have about 25% of our students are at home remote learning. We did alter our secondary level. So grades 6 through 12 are doing a block schedule so that they are only interacting 3 or 4 times a day doing transitional time. That helps us with in between classroom time. It lessens the amount of lunch time that they have to be in contact with other students. It just limits a little bit of what's going on. Our pre-K through 5 model is pretty standardized. We're just having school. It's not a trick. It's not a hybrid model. It's let's come to school. Let's do the things that we know that we can do to help out. There are some things embedded in between, like recess at the elementary school. We're making sure that 1 or 2 classes are only coming into contact with each other every day. So it's not the entire 8 classrooms of first grade are not interacting with each other. And it's the same way with PE and music and things like that. So.
Okay, very interesting.
Yeah.
Have students been easily getting used to the mask wearing and the hand sanitizing, especially at the younger ages?
Absolutely. We are currently following the CDC guidelines for children under 10 years old that are not required to wear face coverings. So our pre-K2 campus, I've been over there several times, and about half of the students are wearing face coverings. All of our professional staff, all the adults on the campus have facial coverings. Some include masks with a face guard over the top. The kids have responded really well. They're learning, they're all about learning procedures and how to walk down a hallway with a little bit of distance, where to sit with a little bit of a distance. Obviously, in a classroom, it becomes a little bit of a challenge to keep kids 6 feet apart. Anybody that's listening and understands what kindergarten looks like, kindergarten's a very playful time. It's a very social time. So there's some challenges that are involved with that, but the kids are doing really well. Every time they go in and out of a classroom, they're wiping things down. We have soap and water for them to learn how to clean their spot. They're not touching a chemical or anything like that, but then they'll get a little squirt of hand sanitizer when they come back from the restroom or go to PE or things like that. So.
Okay. And so let's talk about COVID-19 cases on campus. You had any?
We have 0 active cases right now, which is truly a blessing. We've had some symptoms and we've sent some students home and the parents take them to the doctor and they get an alternate diagnosis, potentially an earache or a toothache or anything like that. So, but we do not have a current active COVID case right now.
Are they required, if a student is sent home for symptoms, are they required to take a test and present the results before they can come back? What does that look like?
That's part of the protocol. TEA, CDC, the Bell County health officials have been more than gracious in spending their time with all of the Bell County superintendents over the last month. And they've come up with some pretty good guidelines. So if a child presents with symptoms, they're potentially sent home after the nurses do an assessment. The way to get back to school is to be medication free for 24 hours. Um, they have to have an alternate diagnosis potentially. If they want to return without outside of the three-pronged approach, the three-pronged approach starts with the 24 hours medication free, and then no new symptoms, and they have to be out for 10 days. That's standard across every Bell County school. The way to get back is to go to a doctor to get an alternate diagnosis or test negative. So either way, they're able to get back into school if they don't go through the 10-day exemption piece.
Okay. And about how many, I don't remember if you said this, but about how many students are doing the virtual learning now?
We have about 25%, which is roughly 350 to 400 of our students are remote right now.
Okay. And so what is the procedure if parents of remote learners want to bring them back into the classroom?
That's a great question, and our campus administration is ready to field those questions daily. Some people have told us, we actually had this on the second day of school. We had at least 10 people call in and say, okay, we don't want to be remote. We don't want to go through this process. We want to come back to school. Can we?
After one
Uh,
day?
After one day, because it's not like, let's go back to the spring. That was crisis mode, and it looked a lot different. It felt a lot different. Our plan moving into this semester was, I mean, you're going to school. It just happens to be you're sitting in your living room, and we have a lot of things for you to do because it needs to mirror exactly what our kids are doing at school. So we created that model for them, and now, or potentially a parent situation has changed. Maybe somebody's getting to go back to work and they need their kids to go to school. We're very open to all of those circumstances. So yeah, in our plan we have written, once you decide, you have to stay during that grading period, but that's not to say that's a hard line. We want our parents to have a choice of where they educate their kids right now, whether that be in school or at home.
Is there room, so, okay, so in the official plan, parents have to wait till the grading period ends, but you're saying you can be flexible. Is that right?
Absolutely. We will always be flexible with parents and do what's best for their kids.
Okay. Um, and how about the resources? Because I know that's what I've heard from other school districts is having parents opt to come back in person creates kind of a strain on resources and they have to do some extra planning. Is that something you guys are dealing with?
Absolutely. We are no different than any school district operating right now. We have ordered roughly 800 devices. We've ordered 100 hotspots to be able to accommodate, let's say your daughter wanted to stay at home and you don't have an internet connection. Well, we have some available, but not enough yet to accommodate everybody that wants to be remote that doesn't have that. So then we have to come up with a plan to do, lack of a technical term, it's just basically paper packets until we can provide that internet connectivity.
Yeah. So that has me thinking, right now, obviously you guys don't have any cases, which is amazing news. What happens if there is a case? First of all, what's the procedure for that if you do get a positive case at one of your campuses?
Sure. We have to, obviously we would report to the parents, or the parents are going to report to us that their child's been tested. And if they're confirmed positive from a lab, then we have an entire spreadsheet, flow sheet. We have to contact the Bell County Health Department. And then you've heard this term, contact tracing begins. We have everything ready to go for the health department at that point with, did they ride a bus? Who do they sit by in class? What lunch period did they have? What PE class or athletic period were they in? All of those types of things are presented to the county health department. And then they potentially do the investigation of contacting all of the other close contacts, whoever would be considered a close contact. and then we follow their guidance. We would potentially have to shut down for a day or two to clean a particular area or a particular wing of a school. And then everybody that is non-symptom would be able to re-enter the building and we have school again.
Okay. So what I've been hearing from a lot of the other Bell County school districts is that they're following that 2% rule for shutting down a campus, but you're saying it could be shut down even if it's just 1 or 2 cases for that deep cleaning?
No, Bell County and the Bell County health officials and the Bell County superintendents have been working together for about 6 weeks now to come up with guidance. The Bell County health officials came up with the 2% rule. That is a indicator that there's potential of widespread within a campus or a district. So at that point, once you get to that 7-day moving average of 2%, the conversation has to be how widespread are we really getting? And that's going to be an indicator for the county health department to decide if they're going to shut the school, that particular school campus for a period of time.
Okay, so you're saying that decision wouldn't necessarily come from you, it's a bigger collaborative.
Absolutely. It's going to be with the Bell County Health Department and us.
Okay. Um, Other things that I wanted to touch on, busing, cafeteria time, how is all that working? Have things changed much?
Absolutely. Because we have about 400 kids that are not coming to campus, well, that relieves some of the pressure on our buses so that we are able to space kids out a little bit better. Siblings are allowed to sit with siblings. We do require everybody that enters a bus to have a face covering on, and they are temperature scanned when they come off of their bus to go onto the campus. That's just mitigation strategies that we can provide. Lunchrooms, the Texas Department of Agriculture has some rules. We try to limit how many students sit at a table together. We've opened up some outside seating areas for kids to go and eat outside. That's all based on how well kids rise to the expectation of what that looks like. If they can handle that and they don't leave the place trashy and don't do things or walk off and do things that they're not supposed to do, then they get to enjoy those privileges.
Yeah, that's a good lesson in responsibility.
Yes, that's part of school, right?
That's right. Um, I also wanted to talk about athletics. Obviously, you guys have had a few games already. What's been the process for that, or the updates with athletics?
That started in the summer when UIL let us start having summer workouts, and we followed all of their guidelines. We continue to do so. My athletic director, Jared Hunt, has been challenged on seating arrangements and how many tickets we can sell. That whole process is a lot of hours done behind the scenes. We've obviously played 3 football games. We've played a number of volleyball games. Our intentions were to make sure our parents were taken care of so that they could watch their kids participate and compete. So Coach Hunt has done an excellent job of communication, of having those processes. We hosted our first Friday night football game this past Friday. Everybody did what they were supposed to do. I mean, yeah, you can find moments to where people are going to pull their mask down or whatever, but our kids come off the field, they do what they're supposed to do. Our band got to play in March, a socially distanced band march. I mean, that was a challenge for our band director. But as long as we follow the rules, I think everything's going to go well.
All right. I think that's all I had. I'll just ask you a general question. What's been the most challenging aspect of coming back to school under these conditions?
I would say managing resources, as we talked about earlier. That's really the biggest challenge is we're trying to provide a remote learning opportunity. And in the event that we have to shut down like we did in the spring, there are not very many school districts in the state of Texas that are prepared for that. And that's been kind of a reality check for all of us is, how do we get technology up to speed with, I mean, it's 2020, we're about to be in 2021. And we live in a technical world, but yet everybody wants school to be in person. Well, when we're told we can't have school in person, then what does that really look like for public education? And that's been quite a challenge for all of us.
That's such a good point, such a good perspective. Hmm. And you, based on those group calls with the Bell County officials, that's what a lot of the superintendents are dealing with, I bet.
Absolutely. We've been very blessed and we're very fortunate to have our Bell County health officials that are willing to work with us. We've learned a lot about them and they've learned a lot about how school operates. So instead of officials just making decisions based on what they think is best, we're getting to make decisions together that are in the best interest of our community. I mean, you think of Bell County as a lot of folks that span all the way from, Killeen all the way over to Rogers, and south to Holland and north to Troy. I mean, there's a lot of us, and we're servicing a lot of communities, a lot of kids, a lot of families, and to be able to work with them has been wonderful. It's truly a blessing to not have to worry about a blanket decision being handed down and then all of a sudden we just have to deal with it. It's actually a working collaboration of how can we have school and how can we still have an open community to support the economics of what's going on as well.